Hey guys, as you can see, I'm at the board today for another Boardroom Breakdown. This is number 4 for those that are keeping track. The question here is, why am I not progressing? Hear this all the time and commonly see it with people who have been throwing like their first year. Of course, somebody who's been throwing less than a year, to a point they could just spend more time learning the throws, developing the throws. But let's say somebody's putting in a full year. I often see a first plateau, a mini plateau or a likely plateau, depending on a lot of factors there. And then also we'll see people continuing, especially towards the gym track and getting stronger and maybe developing some other athletic qualities, beginning to throw more, making throwing more of a priority, training, instead of every week or two or with their buddies kind of thing. They're buying implements, they're getting into the throws. Of course, that's all good stuff. That all makes a difference. That's a lot of what I did when I was learning to throw, but I actually was more of an example of one of those who hit some initial within the first year or so, just like I call micro PRs or almost like random PRs. It's like it did not level up a big meaningful percentage. Maybe you get a foot more on your sheaf or a foot more on, or 2 feet on a hammer or something. Was that just a bit of a fluky thing? Right hammer, right day, it just kind of came together? I think it really often is, and people are kind of BSing themselves. They're not being very truthful. So point is, the easiest, lowest hanging fruit, not necessarily the easiest as in effort, because it's more of a mental effort, and that is shooting video. So video. We all have a cell phone in our pocket. This is for another topic. I'm going to get into more detail on how to shoot video optimally for our purpose too. So number 1 is simply to video our throws. I think most people have done some videos. There's all kinds of excuses. I know and get it's not always fun to have a video camera, shooting the camera and watching the videos. Again, I'm not going to get into all that today. But what we want to look at is, another point too, is if you happen to have a coach, which really almost none of us do, that's the secret too. Even the top pro guys, you're very, very lucky. I can't think of anyone offhand who has another set of eyes, another coach who's right there with them on the field, at least very regularly. My wife and I get to do that somewhat. You have a few other couples that can do that kind of stuff too. Of course, that can have other challenges within, the structure of relationships and that. That's another topic in itself too. But to likelihood, your video is going to be your guarantee to get there. And having that person there, of course, makes it more fluid and able to pick it apart. But, with the video, the first question really is, can you identify the issue? Of course, we can add it. As to that, there's usually multiple things. Rarely besides the top throwers. There's always, and me personally, there's always something I can look at and say, okay, I could have done that a little bit better as far as timing, length of my positions, whatever. And what that does is it's empowering me to say, okay, there's room to get better. My obsessive brain knows that there is more there. There was more on basically every throw. I've never had that perfect throw, and that keeps me fired up to do this and keeps me, you could say obsessed about throwing in a sense and coaching, knowing that we can potentially do more. Can we identify the issues? That's the question. Right? So what that means is a beginner thrower or someone who has not been watching a lot of video, not been very technical savvy. Again, the common route of getting stronger in the gym, doing other things, right? And this would be true more so for younger throwers and someone who maybe already has a throwing background. There are outliers for sure. And maybe a lot of the pro guys have got away with not having to do as much video. There are those examples for sure. But again, why make so many mistakes and have to override these things? Or if you're a master's athlete and maybe you don't have a big throwing background, you don't have a big tool basket, especially if you're already strong, more and more reason to look at the issues. And basically what we're getting to is just getting very technically savvy, becoming a very detailed person, a dedicated person. And it can be breaking down your own videos if you can identify the issue or the primary, we say treating the symptom rather than that cause of it. If we can go to the root, go to the cause, say, for example, on our weight for distance, if our finish, we're diving into our finish, or we're pulling the weight out of orbit, most of the time we can start with the cast. Make sure our cast is really solid, make sure our orbit is good. Maybe that's not going to fix everything because we have some cue in our head or something where we're anxious and we're bending our elbow, things like that. But oftentimes we can start with that in mind, and that's where the good coaches will be able to identify that one thing, the most important thing to work on for you, and how to fix it. That would be the other part. And the answer there is almost always to break it down, simplify it, do a simple drill. So again, my weight for distance example, starting with that cast, like a cast and drop drill, just getting into that cast, moving the weight around, getting comfortable. Sometimes it's as simple, somebody may need to just do reps where they're just swinging the weight, like just moving with that weight, making sure the weight's not kinking as they're coming into the backswing. Again, the other benefit of that, it takes very little physical effort to do these simple drills. Or deep off season, maybe you just have really poor footwork, you're not springy and light on your feet, injuries and things like that. Of course, those are some other factors. If you're really broken down and you have really bad ankles, sometimes people will just not be able to do this, or you have such poor range of motion, you don't have hip range of motion. That's another topic, another area. You may need some other intervention, some physical therapy, some really good personal training, coaching, some eyes on you to get you moving better. That's a case in itself. But assuming you have that basic requisite foundation, again, this is beyond the scope of what we want to cover here, but can we break it down? And if you can fix it, if you can improve it here on a video, right, you can fix the issue and do it in a simple drill. That's step one. That's saying, hey, there is hope. This can be done. I'm going to be able to rebuild this. This is a motor patterning. Just understanding the basics of neurological function of our bodies, we're able to reprogram this. It's not an extreme, complicated dance move or something like that. Some people, it's just gonna fry them to ask them to learn some, extreme, exotic pattern, or to teach me how to play something on the guitar in a few days or something like that, or a very complex thing. But I can learn some basic chords. It's more like that too. We can learn some basic fundamentals or rebuild some of this stuff with some simple drills. And then the next part, let's say we got it on the drill. Cool. Let's go to some range throws. So again, key part here I want to emphasize too, meaning 4 to 5 repetitions at this level, I would say is minimum. Otherwise, we're still great. If you're doing it, maybe one day you're doing it very successfully and it's kind of falling apart other days, I would say don't even go to that next level. I know that's sad, it sucks. That's where it gets harder, where videoing and sharing that is harder, but we want to make sure we can do that in a simple drill at least 80% of the time. Of course, sometimes you can speed up a drill, add some other variable, resistance to the drill, some complexity to it. But the range throws, can we do that? Let's say, again, kind of depends on the throw. Sometimes if we go so slow, like at 60% of the throw, it's going to be very odd and you don't develop a rhythm. But let's say at least 70%, something that just feels very smooth. You're basically able to just transition that drill into that smooth throw. Highly recommend with range throws. I've covered this in other topics too. Range throw would mean you're putting a cone out like right at that 80%, or maybe 75, and then another cone at 85. There's different ranges of range throws to a point, or we'll ramp up. And then that's actually what we're gonna do next. Ramping or bust the range. Meaning the distance went farther, but again, more importantly, you have to do a video of that. You have to prove it to yourself. You have to video all those throws, all those 80%, meaning that we're videoing everything. Again, we all have our cell phones right there in our pocket. So in order to be successful, you do need to video this. And again, a lot of people are going to need a coach to have the eyes on that, help them stay disciplined, at least potentially I call them super friend or a buddy that really knows the throws, and you both identify that issue and you believe, hey, this is the primary thing we need to do to make this happen, right? So when we ramp, that could be doing a range throw. Again, say our range throw is 75 to 85%. We start breaking through that range, just smoothly breaking that range within a given practice is great. It may take weeks and really oftentimes will take months to completely break a pattern. I have some patterns that just come back around. They're just an ugly beast and they come back around every year. I wish it wasn't true, but they will just come back because they're just such common faults. Like continuing to turn my foot into my open stone and my weights, pulling my, countering away on my weights for distance, especially heavyweight. Hammer is the common one, his bent arms. Again, we could break this down in another video, specifically what are the common issues with each throw. That's a great topic in itself. But again, more specifically, breaking these down, four out of 5 at least, before you even consider moving on. Put that down there for a reference point. You gotta get this stuff down, before you pass through door number 1 to door number 2. You gotta meet those standards. Otherwise, you're just lying to yourself. Neurologically, you're not feeding that pattern. You're not fixing the pattern. Or if you think about a groove on a record or a track path that you're used to walking on, to groove a new path takes quite a while, right? And then the new path to become grooved in like the old path or the old record, playing that song on the record player. It would take a lot to rebuild that groove, right? So to tell you that, there's all kinds of research on this, and lots and lots of reps is what's been shown in some of the research at least. But to know that we can start to fix this really on day 1 with these simple drills, break down these range throws. Again, you may only keep that in mind, you may only get to the drills for a while. It might take a few weeks. That's where we start this in the deep, early preseason, and we're fixing this stuff. We're re-looking at our throws, we're rejuvenated, fresh, hopefully not beating ourselves too much up, in the gym, especially masters athlete, much more valuable. Say you're a newer thrower, a couple years under your belt at most, banking on investing in your time on the field. Again, doing this video and breaking these down, ramping up. Again, so best case scenario, these are all going well. After a few weeks, you're breaking through those ranges. You're able to ramp up into it. Maybe again, doing a couple other videos and primers that I've covered in other video topics to really get that body conditioned and ready for the throws. You're doing things well, things are going great. So we start breaking through those ranges. We're not pushing for PRs yet. Unless you're a very advanced thrower, you may be able to skip through this quite a bit faster. And then you're starting to bust through, again, like 5%. You're starting to push that, okay, now I'm at 90% of where my old PR is, and I'm able to keep hitting these 4 to 5 times. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be good enough to make the difference. And that's what I'm gonna put and bank on. That's enough. It's not perfection. It just has to be good enough for the record, the path to get grooved again. So breaking through that. And then of course, you're working on full throws and it's sticking, it's staying. Most of our time we're gonna be up in these ranges anyways, but ultimately, of course, we do want to be there. This is more complex as we go down this continuum, right? So that's really the formula right in here. And keeping these numbers in mind. And just staying disciplined. You do need to send those videos to your coach. Most people, this is just where it's going to fit and be most realistic for them. Again, if you have someone that's right there, let's say at your level, or maybe a little above your level, or very far above your level, that's really just willing to watch those videos, give you feedback after you've shot the videos. And again, you need to be watching those videos in between each throw and validating that those are working. I know that sucks. I know that throws the pace off a lot, but this will work over time. This will be the way to make those improvements. And again, just for the benefit of all this, you're a lot less wear and tear on the body. Every time you get more technically solid, you are able to apply that and not put all the grindy, twisty things on our body that, again, like for me, pulling my head away, countering out of the throw on my finish on my weight, this has put a lot of strain into my neck over the years. Again, bad habit. I've just been stubborn enough to say, oh, good enough. But if I had to go back again, I would continue working on that and being disciplined, working through that. And again, this could be a little bit day to day. You might have a really crappy day. Well, I'm just going to stay in this drill pattern. Again, especially preseason, what we're after is the big progress at the end of the season, or at our games at least, right? Especially as we're aging athletes. It's very easy to rush through this and just be very impatient. So I get it. I understand. There's your formula. So please like, share, subscribe if you don't already, and send me some comments here too. I'm happy to break this down, kind of segue into some other videos. That's kind of the idea. It should bring up some more questions for you guys as well. So check this out and more to come.